6 o'clock, I'm going to call the October 15th, 2019 meeting of the East Long Meadow Planning Board to order. So I'm required by Mass General Law to indicate that we are being video and audio recording by LCAT, and to ask if there's anyone else in the room who might be recording this meeting, and if so, would you please state your name? Hearing none, I'd like to do an attendance, call of the roll. So we have Jonathan Porsche, George Kingston, myself, Russell Denver, and Tide Richards. Here. So we have approval of the minutes for September 17th, 2019. Do I hear a motion to accept? Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
It's been motion made and accepted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say nay. It passes. Then we have the meeting approval minutes of October 1st, 2019. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second that.
So I would just like to indicate that I was not at that meeting, but I did indeed review that meeting on LCAP, so I feel comfortable that I can vote on it. So all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay, so it passes. So, Mr. Richards, first item of business.
Okay, site plan waiver, SPRW 2019-31, retail pop-up store. Request by applicant for site plan review waiver for a retail clothing pop-up store located at 23 North Main Street, Assessors Parcel ID 27-36A-0 in a business zoning district. The applicant is Janice Vitelli, 96 Bel Air, Long Meadow, Mass. 01106.
The applicant here?
No, she was across the street setting up, and she was promising to come in as soon as she finished.
So then why don't we just delay this?
Okay.
Second item?
SPRW 2019-32, rooftop photovoltaic, I never say this right. Voltaic, excuse me, thank you. Solar, request by applicant for site plan review waiver for rooftop solar located at 80 Denslow Road, Assessors Parcel ID 10-8-0 in Industrial Garden Zoning District. The applicant is Todd
Sikirka.
Thank you very much. Green Earth Energy Corp. Appreciate your help.
No problem.
Can you come up and
Sure.
tell us what's going on?
So, I think you have the paperwork. We are putting on a photovoltaic solar system on top of the roof with obvious setbacks for, mechanical pathways as well as the required setback for fireman access. And it's something that we've done several times over the last few years in East Long Meadow.
Can you just refresh our memory on some of the properties you've also done it on?
So, in particular, even on Denslow Road, on the main plant of Mayberry Material Handling, we put it up there. We've put it at US Fluids. We put it on the roof of Absorbing Junior. Some of the addresses, I'm the accountant in the building, not the guy that actually builds it, but what comes to mind, we've done a few others over the last few years in East Long Meadow.
Anyone have any questions of the petitioner?
No. Sounds good.
Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say nay. Hearing none, that item passes. Next item.
SPRW 2019-33, rooftop photovoltaic.
Photovoltaic.
Thank you very much. Solar, request by applicant for a site plan review waiver for rooftop solar located at 152 Denslow Road, Assessors Parcel ID 10-17-3R in Industrial Garden Zone District. Todd,
Sikirka.
Green Energy Corp.
Thank you very much.
Same explanation, same thing.
Any member have a question?
No.
Okay. Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second?
Second that.
So motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Item passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
SPRW 2019,
She can wait till the end of our site plan waivers. Yeah.
SPRW 2019-34 Walgreens, request by applicant for a site plan review waiver for a retail pharmacy and sundries located at 54 Center Square, assessors parcel ID 27-28-0 in a business zoning district. The applicant is Walgreens Eastern Corp. Inc., DBA Walgreens, store number 07703, P.O. Box 901, Deerfield, Illinois.
So I had a discussion with Connie this morning, just about this item. And Connie, perhaps you can let the board know why Walgreens is in now for this.
Well, poor Walgreens never came in for their business certificate back in the day when they opened, so they were doing their house cleaning, we were doing our house cleaning, and here they are before the planning board to request the site plan waiver so they may operate their business.
Anyone have any questions?
Not really, they've been there forever.
Yeah? Okay.
Pretty
They're
straightforward.
not changing the sites.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the site plan waiver?
So moved.
Have a second?
I will second that.
All right, item has been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. This item passes.
SPRW 2019-35, New England Functional Fitness LLC, request by applicant for site plan review waiver for a fitness service business located at 168 Denslow Road, assessors parcel ID 10-19-4 in the Industrial Garden Park zoning district. The applicant is New England Functional Fitness, 168 Denslow Road, East Long Meadow, Mass.
And full disclosure, I am a client of this company, but I have no financial interest in it. And since we're short a member, I'm going to sit here and approve it.
Do we have anyone here representing the petitioner? Want to come forward? Hi.
How's it going?
Good. Tell us what you have in mind.
So New England Functional Fitness is a business that is operating in the exact same way it has been in its predecessors, being out of ATI and before that Attain. And we are just specializing in post-therapeutic, athletic, and general strength and conditioning for all ages.
So no change to the
No
to the
change.
structure of the building?
Nothing.
Okay.
No.
So it's just a name change?
Just a name change, different owners,
Okay.
and yeah, that's it.
But the same concept.
Same concept, yeah.
Anyone else have any other questions for the petitioner? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the site plan waiver?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say nay.
Good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
SPRW 2019-36, R&M Gun Vault. Request by applicant for site plan review waiver for the sale of new and used firearms, ammunition, accessories at 37 aka 31 Harkness Ave, assessors parcel ID 12-33-0 in the business zoning district. The applicant is Russell Cordano, 18 John Street, East Long Meadow, Mass.
Petitioner like to come forward? Evening.
So we're proposing to open up a gun store at 37 Harkness Avenue. We've already submitted our security plan to the chief of police. I believe you have a copy of that. We had approval also from the chief of the fire department. The property in question is retail. It's already been used for retail, so we're not changing anything there. I'm aware that we're all aware that there's already a retail gun outlet in East Long Meadow, as well as another business that sells by appointment only, so we're not adding anything different or changing anything. A little bit about myself personally. I've been a responsible firearms owner for close to 30 years. I've never had a blemish on my record. I've also had over 15 years of both sales and retail experience, including running my own locksmith business. What can I do?
So also talking again to Connie this morning, so it was our impression that we would probably not act on this evening because we would want to have a site plan review, similar to what we did with, I forget the name of that store.
Mascom.
Mass Gun. So, and that you were aware of that.
I am aware of that.
Okay. Doesn't mean we're gonna do it, but I know there was discussion with you and Connie regarding that issue, so. Okay. But I'll open up to the board.
I agree. I think we should be consistent with this by having a site plan so that there's something on file in the office that says this is the way it's going to look. And the security plan obviously will remain confidential, but we have something in writing that says this is what the outside's going to look like. These are the entrances and so on.
I have that here. Did you get a copy of that from Chief Delesio?
I don't know if he did or not, but the point being, it, as a formal site plan, it's registered, and therefore it's something that is permanent, okay? And that's important just for continuity here.
Through the chair.
Yep.
So the site plan review would involve a public hearing, which is what, and it would be advertised in a newspaper of general circulation. And in addition, abutters would be notified within the 300-foot radius. So it allows for the public to weigh in the event that they have any concerns prior to the granting of the site plan approval.
If my memory is pretty good, which I think it is, the last hearing with Mass Gun, there were no one in opposition to that proposal, so.
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I'll use a George Kingston term. So we're going to need a motion in the affirmative, correct? To approve
The waiver.
the
right.
waiver, and we would then have to vote
To not approve.
To not approve.
Against that.
Yeah.
To require a site plan.
a site plan.
So I will make a motion to approve the waiver.
So do I have a second?
I will second that.
So we have a motion and seconded. Discussion?
Just what I said before, that it wouldn't be consistent with having a site plan on file.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, okay. All opposed say nay.
Nay.
So what this means is that you will have to do a site plan. We will then come back and have a public hearing on the approval of it.
Okay.
And the timing of it, you can discuss with Connie.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. So we can go back to item number 1, a retail pop-up store.
Okay, SPRW 2019-31 retail pop-up store request by applicant for site plan review for waiver for a retail clothing pop-up store located at 23 North Main Street, assessors parcel ID 27-36A-0 in a business zoning district. The applicant is Janice Latelli, 96 Bel Air, Long Meadow, Mass. 01106.
You want to come forward?
It's Littell, but that's okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I do it to everybody.
That's fine.
Hi. So tell us what you have in mind.
So I've actually done it in East Long Meadow before. I'm a pop-up. I'm actually the manager of the store, and we're a division of Republic Clothing out of New York. We do a seasonal cashmere store, and I will be there for 6 weeks total,
Okay. When would you begin?
tomorrow.
Okay. All right. So where else did you do it in East Long
So,
Meadow?
do you know where in the other Pride store is on North Main, the other end of North Main? I was in there for 3 years.
Okay.
And I was also over behind Home Goods for 2 years, where the old Visual Changes used to be.
Yeah.
I was there.
Okay.
So I've been around the town. Unfortunately, I have to find people that will rent from me for a short time.
Yeah. So what is this going forward status of the fruit stand or the vegetable stand?
So the fruit stand is finished. She's
Okay.
finished for the season, so she will not be there while I'm doing my sale.
Okay.
I actually confirmed that this morning.
Okay.
So is it, so this is outside, this isn't in that building, the old?
No, I'm in the
old
building.
Romeo
there.
In the building, the
Oh,
old.
it's in the Romeo.
Correct. It
Okay.
is where the lamps by Claudia, memory
Okay.
lamp. right
Oh,
inside
in there, okay.
Yeah, in the middle location of the three.
So would you do me a huge favor? Not a Donald Trump favor, just a huge favor. The lady that ran the vegetable stand put some balloons and two little American flags.
Do you want those
that are-
gone?
Yeah.
Okay.
that's-
I was actually gonna take them off, but I
Very-
felt kind of funny taking the flags off. I felt kind of unpatriotic. No,
No.
okay.
but
Is I
It's unsightly.
I agree.
The flags are not unsightly, but.
No, I understand
the
what
fact
you're saying,
that
where they're,
left
where
out
they're
there like that,
positioned,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So, but I just want to know going forward, if I have a sandwich board, a blue sandwich board, can I put it on my sidewalk?
So that is, signs are done by the building inspector. So that's really an issue that you'd have to talk to the building inspector about,
Okay, so.
because it's a temporary sign.
Okay, you mean my exterior sign for my building?
No.
Okay.
So all signs are handled by the building inspector on whether what you can or cannot do with respect to temporary signs have to go through him.
So that's considered a temporary sign?
Oh, yeah.
Even if it's just a freestanding and it comes in and out with me when I open the doors? Okay, because I put it out all the other years and nobody's ever had a problem.
So we've kind of tightened things up a little bit. The planning board is no longer the.
And so is
overseer
that
of
something I'm
signs.
gonna have to wait another month to sit through?
No, no.
Okay.
Not at all.
He doesn't have a board through the chair. Just as he filled out your zoning determination.
Oh, so
request.
that is on the second floor across the office from you? Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
It no longer goes through us.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
So we have a motion to approve, it's been second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
So Connie, do I give you this? Do I come to you tomorrow? What do I do?
Come back tomorrow.
Come back to the office?
Yep.
And you guys open at 8?
Yep.
Is that gonna take a long time? I like to kind of get a gauge. of
Good
what
luck.
I'm doing here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. I will cut those off tomorrow too.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Item 7.
A&R 2019-07, 134 Maple Street. Request for endorsement of a plan believed not to be required subdivision approval under subdivision control law for the conveyance of lots between owners to create new parcels located at 128 Maple Street, assessors parcel ID 17-22-01, and 134 Maple Street, assessors parcel ID 17-24-01, located in residential B zoning district. The applicant is Louis A. and Alice E. Calabrese, 134 Maple Street, East Long Meadow, Mass., and Roman Catholic Bishop of Springfield, 128 Maple Street, East Long Meadow, Mass.
The petitioners like to come forward?
Sure.
No?
Hi.
Tell us what you have in mind.
Are you looking to find out what I want to do?
I want to find out exactly how
Oh.
you're changing the layout of the property and.
Oh, I see, I thought you had a plan, you don't have a plan?
But
Yeah, okay.
We want the public to be able to hear you.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
Essentially, what's happening is between the Roman Catholic Diocese of Springfield and ourselves, we are doing a land swap. We're giving them a piece of ours, and they're giving us a piece of theirs. This way here, we would be able to do a future garage where we would be able to meet the 15-foot side yard setback distances.
Donna, do you have any specific comments on this?
Well, you have an A&R plan that shows the frontage. Unfortunately, the existing conditions are not shown on the plan, and on the parcel where the Roman Catholic Church diocese office is located, there is a buffer zone that's required between the residential zoning district and the exempt use. And unfortunately, the plan doesn't show that there's an encroachment within the buffer zone. So perhaps the applicant can speak to that, because once the A&R is approved, It could impact the zoning compliance for the parcel owned by the Roman Catholic bishop. So the applicant should understand that if the lot line adjustment encroaches within the driveway access area, an easement may be necessary. But you as the planning board are simply looking at the A&R plan of land, so you can't set those stipulations. But those are just some concerns that the applicant should be aware of, as both applicants, both the Roman Catholic Diocese as well as the petitioner who is before you this evening.
And would it require any distinction to be put on the plan?
No, just the stamp that reads this, our particular verbiage that this land plan may not constitute a building lot.
Any members of the board have a question on this?
Yeah, are we saying that the land that you're acquiring from them includes part of the driveway?
No, not at all.
Not at all?
Not at all, no.
No, it's, if you look at the, have you had an opportunity to look at the U shape? So where the
Yeah.
property line was.
They don't show the driveway on that plan,
No, sir.
so I can't tell.
It doesn't encroach between the driveway and all.
Close the driveway now.
And I'd just like to make a comment, if I may.
Yeah, please.
The office that the church is utilizing for an office was previously Dr. Medrick's office, who was in town for many years. And he bought that from the same people that the Diocese of Springfield purchased the land to build the church. Dr. Medrick purchased that land in August of 1965, built the office, and then what happened was the people who owned the land sold to the Diocese of Springfield back in 1987 the land for a future church. The church was built in 1970. At this point, you've got the doctor's office, which is there, and the church, which is coming. Okay. The property that the church is utilizing the office for, which is Dr. Medrick's old parcel, is still on a separate deed. It was never joined with the church property. It's still on a separate deed. Smith Associates, who does my plan, has been doing plans for many, many years. And what they did is they pulled it off what's in the Registry of Deeds, which is a separate parcel for the office there. My attorney, he looked it over and he said the same thing. So, I mean, you know, my argument is that the church has, when it built the church, if you look at the office, which was Dr. Medrick's office, to the left of it would have been where the 20-foot landscape buffer would be for the church. It appears like they did do that. I'm on the right, okay? There was never a requirement that there be a landscape buffer between the office and my property at 134 Maple Street. What did happen there was, and I'm not sure if Marilyn was around, but I think she might have been, when the church decided some years ago that they would like to change the traffic flow going into their parking lot. I was then a member of the planning board, along with Marilyn, and they came in to see us. They said they would like to be able to come into their parking lot on the land that they own for the office there and put a driveway going to the back. It would make it so that the front of the church, there was no traffic, so on funerals and weddings, it was safer. They did that, and it was a group of members of the parish council that came before the planning board. And it was an agreement between the planning board and the parish council that for the previous owners, the LaPierres, they would put a landscaped, they would put some arborvitaes there. So when the cars are going to church on Sunday or whatever days, like Saturday, they wouldn't be going by and looking in the backyard of these people. It just so happens that I come along and bought the house after that. And the church has maintained those bushes since I've been there, except that for 1 year, a year ago, they took them down because they were being diseased, and they were nice enough to replace them again. They will still be there, okay? So I don't know that the church has to maintain a 25-foot buffer on the right-hand side because it's not the church. It's owned by the church, but the church is the church, and then they have the rectory. Because it's on a separate deed, it's a separate parcel. Apparently, from what planning board director was able to show me was that for the tax purposes, it's all one parcel. But for other than that, it's a separate parcel. The diocese, for some reason or other, never separated this land.
So that building, is that taxable property by the town? Or is it assessed religious?
I believe it's not, but that's not within my purview. It appears like it's, you know, that's a matter for the assessors. I don't want to try to put the assessors down the church's back. They've been nice enough to work with me on doing this. But it's been that way let's see, the building permit for the office was in 1964, and the property sale was to Dr. Medrick's wife back in 1965. Now, St. Michael's Church bought that from the doctor's wife in 1989. And for some reason or other, they never joined it with the other property they have. So, does that parcel, first of all, that parcel wouldn't meet the zoning bylaw requirements in that if it was a church, it would have to have double the square footage. It does not. Would it have to have double the frontage? It does not. It's a separate parcel on its own.
Through the chair, I hate to complicate things, but the wording of the comments on the church building refers to a residential district boundary, not to a lot line. And this is within the residential district and not at the boundary. And so I'm not sure why this was written the way it was, but I think it's very ambiguous as to whether or not it's the lot line or the residential district line. So, again, I think
We would need to tighten up.
eventually, but I think for this purpose, we can approve the A&R, and it's up to the applicant and the owner to take the risk of, you know.
Yeah, actually, my
what that means.
attorney told me, and
Yeah.
Smith Associates said, is that once you approve the A&R, you stamp it, that it doesn't necessarily constitute a building lot.
No.
Everything then becomes the building inspector. I met with the building inspector on 2 occasions. I showed him everything that we want to do, and he has no problems with it at all.
Okay.
And he'll make the last call.
Okay, so obviously you're aware of this, you're aware of the
Yes.
issues.
Yes.
We're not, again, we're just trying to make sure that you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So when it comes time, and if the building inspector says that I can't get a permit, well, I know about it.
Yeah. So we have frontage on the
Yep.
on the way?
On a public way.
I see it as a pretty straightforward type thing. The frontage is there, there's an agreement between the two parties. It's pretty clear cut in my mind.
I'll make a motion to approve the A&R.
To endorse
To
the.
endorse, I'm sorry. Thank you for correcting me. I should know that.
You should. I rely on you for that, George.
Yeah,
See what happens when they're no longer a chairman?
Yeah, it's horrible.
All
I'll
right.
second that.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
No one opposed say nay.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yep.
So they'll sign this evening, Mr. Calabrese,
Sure.
but tomorrow we'll write the decision so that you can take that
Whatever's
with you.
convenient for you.
Okay, so we'll give you a call?
Sure, that'd be great, that's enough. Sure, I'm not in a big hurry. It's not like it's gotta be done, yes.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome.
Item 8.
Okay, continue with public hearing, case site 2019-05, proposed commercial development for Shaker Road. Request by applicant for the construction of a proposed 2,500 square foot plus or minus bank and a 5,500 square foot plus or minus commercial building at 244 Shaker Road, assessors parcel ID 18-35-0 on a 133,217 plus or minus square foot lot located in residential A in business zoning district. Applicant is SI VAD Development Partners LP 1 Monarch Place, Suite 1300, Springfield, Mass. This is continued from April 16th, June 18th, July 16th, August 20th, and September 17th.
Just so the board members are aware, the chairman of the Conservation Commission has joined us. So if we have any specific questions, we can refer to him. Thank you for joining us.
Should I set up in the corner? Is that better for the camera and for the audience and for?
Yeah, that would, well, it's up to chairman.
Right there's fine.
Okay.
So while you're setting up, I guess I'll just go right to one of the matters that we had. So, as you know, we asked the police chief and the fire chief to give us recommendations. The police chief recommended a sidewalk along Shaker Road. Planning director urged you to put in a sidewalk. And I know you weren't here last meeting, Mr. Martin was here, and I urged you to seriously consider a sidewalk. And the plans don't have a sidewalk. So why don't you start by addressing that issue?
Sure. You want to start from where you left off last time, or do you want me to?
Well, we never really started. We had some discussion about it, but there are several issues with the sidewalk. One is, and Rob can show you on the plans, but this site is, the site that's before you on site design review does not run all the way to Yorkshire. So starting a sidewalk, at the beginning of this property leaves no sidewalk running to Yorkshire, so there's no connectivity there. Then,
So I just want to add one thing. So at a previous meeting of this board, there was an assertion either by Rob or you, I can't remember which one, that there was no sidewalk from the top of Great Hills down to Shaker Road, when in reality there is.
well, I don't
So-
remember that, but I do remember.
Well, I went back and watched it on.
Okay, I don't remember that, but I do know that last time when Philippe was here, he did say that it comes down at least on one side. So that's not the issue.
So I guess the other thing I want to just, while I'm rolling here. So I know that we've had, this is probably the 5th time you've been in, and I guess I want to address, which I think really upset me a little bit at the end of last meeting. So there was belief that this was taking probably longer than it might have to take. And so I went back and I watched each of the hearings. And I want to address 4 points that I believe led to the delay that we're at now. One, the neighbors, when they first came in, talked at length about they believed that they were being misled. They believed it. And it was Connie who then went and found some of the materials, I believe it was you, Connie, found some of the old materials about how the Davises did indeed offer to the town. The town said no, so we greatly appreciate that, but we would have probably anticipated that the petitioner would have addressed that in the very beginning. The second thing was the traffic report, which was issued. I know Mr. Levesque has heard this from me. So it was not an accurate reflection of the intersection that was there. There was no picture of the gas station that has been there for over a year. If you recall, it had to go back.
There was
You
one
put into the report.
graphic.
One graphic.
One graphic.
Not an accurate reflection, needed to be fixed. The sidewalk question was another one. And then, I guess, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I have no problem being corrected if I'm wrong. But the fire chief came back with the recommendations that I'm sure you're going to address tonight about the access for the fire trucks within the parcel. So is that part of your, when you're drafting the plans, would that be something that you would normally take into consideration when you're placing the building and the parking and so forth?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Why don't follow the question, line of
Well,
questioning?
I'm not following why that was not done as part of the plans that were presented at the last meeting, so that you then don't need to then have to go back and talk to the fire chief.
It was, and to be honest with you, all of the radii and the circulation patterns are all pretty standard to a commercial development site. So the information that was presented normally, the normal review we don't typically get those comments because people understand the radii as they come in. We do have a program called AutoTurn, which allows us to illustrate more in a graphic, or not a cartoon, but a graphic format, how these vehicles turn based on the size of the vehicle, turning radii, everything, how they turn through the site, how they can get there, what the swing is beyond the tail end of the vehicle. All of those can be illustrated. We typically do not put them on a layout plan because most folks that are reviewing them understand them, but sometimes they do get requested. They're not something we show graphically on a layout plan because eventually our plans are going to be used for construction. So, but we do have that information and we do analyze those, and you'll find out tonight when we show those to you that there has been no change to the site, no change required. So I think it's just a misinterpretation of the plan reading.
Good. So I make no apologies to this board taking their time, making the right decision. This is a very busy and very important intersection. You know very well that American Saw, which has been in business for many years and now is other names, that drives a lot of traffic. Gas stations drive a lot of traffic. You have La Fiorentina, which is there, which drives a lot of traffic. We want to make sure that this is done correctly. And almost 3 years ago, this town voted a new form of government because I believe they wanted things done better. And so if it means us taking a little more time to make sure that everything is done correctly and for the benefit of the town, I make no apologies for how long this has taken to do this.
I wasn't here at the last meeting.
So we're not looking for any apology. A comment was made that...
None was coming.
Well, we're not looking for any. The comment was made in text of the fire chief's request or comment was dated August 20-something. And that's the first time we had a comment from the fire department that I was aware of. Now, as you just read in the notice, these plans, which are not going to be changed because the radii have been the same, was filed, in at least late winter, early spring. So that was, I'm sure, the source of frustration. So I think that's a fair comment, that at that point, that came out. The police chiefs came the month before. So I think it's fair on both sides. We want this done and approved. You need to take your time and do it right, but I think from our perspective, those things are legitimate frustrations. So I'm answering the question about the sidewalks. So there are no sidewalks because the parcel in front of you does not connect to Yorkshire. Number two, and Rob will go over this, what could be built only goes to the second curb cut in front of the commercial building and cannot be built down to the rest of the intersection. So asking the developer at more significant cost to put in a sidewalk that's two floating islands of sidewalk does not make any sense. I will also point out that the first design had the buildings connecting, the lots connecting. After the initial review, the town asked to separate them. So we redrew those plans at the town's request. Then we got the police chief's comments, and he asked us to put them back together. So we have been trying to accommodate those things. While doing that, it triggered a redesign the first time when we had to split them of the stormwater retainage system, which caused us to have to go back to the Conservation Commission. Once we got there, that looks good, then we were asked to change it back, and we changed it back. Now it's redesigned, both of which were done to accommodate the DPW's request, even though the original plan was proper and could have been approved had we chosen to say, no, we're going to use these pipes and have the water flow. So while the developer, while the town is taking its time and doing its job, we've been trying to do our job and be responsive, and we've been, I think, done a good job of doing that.
Would you like to go through your plan?
Sure. Absolutely. Again, for the record, Rob Levesque from our Levesque Associates, and thank you for your time tonight. We're here basically for what I would call an update, because there are pending issues that we're chipping away at them, we're doing our best, and we understand that it takes time for the planning board to review it as well, so we do appreciate your time. Just by the way of materials I've provided, there is a 11 by 17 set of the plans, so it's a little easier for you, so if I pass those through your planner. And then I've also provided an 11 by 17, there's 2 pages to it that illustrate the turning movements that Mr. Denver had spoken about, so I can go through those as well. I do also, I only have 1 copy of this, only because on the way out the door I decided to print it because it was also something. I do have another little document here. You can learn about boats on one side, but the other side is the time saver standards for landscape architects, also architectural graphic standards that describes radii as you come into a site, what you need for certain types of vehicles, and it has I just highlighted at the bottom the fire truck for, with a 48-foot radius and how that all works. And you can see that the turning the radii into a site and around a site are actually a lot smaller than you would expect. So take a look at that if you'd like, if you want to pass that around or just for reference. So with that, I'll go through the plan updates first, and I apologize because Philippe was here last time, so I'll just make sure that I might overlap a little bit. But on the corner, we do have the existing bank site that was described early on. We've changed the circulation pattern. I can move it if it's. I'm going to try to do both here. That's fine. Okay for the board still? Okay, so here we have the bank on the corner that was originally proposed. The building that was originally proposed is still here. What we were asked to do is look at the circulation pattern through the site. Specifically, there was concerns related to the westbound traffic down Chestnut. There was a concern about left turns into the site, how that would work. So we were, I believe it was the police chief had asked for circulation pattern to change and basically connect the 2 sites. Originally, the reason we didn't do that is because of the potential wetland impacts. We were trying to keep the sites separate. We were able to figure it out, and I can go through the drainage system that we had to update, but bottom line was we were able to connect the site. So I believe at the last public hearing, there was questions related to sidewalks, as you'd mentioned, but also related to how fire apparatus would get through the site. It looks tight, however, we have a plan, and I will show it for the audience as well. We have this 11 by 17 plan that shows the same site. What you'll see on your 11 by 17 is that there's a couple different lines here. So there's the internal lines are the lines of the tires themselves, and then the exterior line, or the wider line, is the swing of the vehicle. So you can see that the vehicle not only can get through the site, but even the swing or the tail end of the vehicle can still get through the site without impacting any of the edge of pavements, or if there's light poles or anything like that, they wouldn't have any trouble getting through the site. So this particular situation is showing it based on the correspondence back and forth with the fire department. Originally, we had shown it, I think we might even have shown it one of them southbound, and they had a concern about that. They said they're coming from either down Chestnut to the site or down Shaker. So what we did is we showed them coming in off of Chestnut if they decided to do so. Obviously, normal traffic wouldn't be able to do that, but if they decided to do that, we did show that. And then the other circulation pattern was shown if they were to do a U-E down on Shaker and then come into the site. Shows that they can get into both sites pretty effectively without any questions. Now, this was sent to the fire department today. We had gone back and forth a couple times, so I have not seen any specific response from that. So obviously, that's something that we'll wait for the formal response from the fire department. But it does illustrate that we can get through the site effectively, and that there's really no issues related to turning movements for the vehicle that we believe. It's a 42-foot fire truck that they have and it has a 48-foot radius that it runs through. Any questions from the board on that one?
Not yet. From the board members?
Yeah. I'm not going to preempt the fire chief. He's the guy who knows his job. But as I recall, when we did the project on North Main Street, they were fairly adamant about not including both lanes, the lane going the opposite direction as part of the radius and access area, but I'll defer to the fire chief on that. It's his decision as to
And I can speak to that too. Pretty much, so this is a standard 24-foot wide drive aisle, which would be standard anywhere in, Massachusetts, probably any state. The radii on the way in are 10 foot on either side. They could be 20 if they needed to be, but they don't need to be. So pretty much any site you have in East Long Meadow is the same exact thing. Mass DOT actually has a specific requirement when you're doing a curb cut permit that they will not let you exceed 24 feet wide in width. So you have to do something special where you do a gourd island in the middle or something like that to be able to exceed that width. So pretty much you can assume that and we'll speak to the fire chief about this obviously, but you can assume that almost any intersection you have, or any curb cut you have in town would require them to go into the opposite lane. We could alternatively, if we needed to, if you felt the need, or if the fire chief felt the need, increase the radii on either side of the entrances to 20 foot. But what that does is that gives you a huge throat for the curb cut. And that's not, from a planning point of view, that's not really what typically folks are looking for. You try to restrict the curb cut as much as you can while still providing access.
I'll defer to the fire chief on that.
So I think what I'd like to procedurally do, so this is a public hearing, so I'd like to now open it to the public so that they can discuss the fire truck issue before we go on to what would be the next issue. So if there's anyone from the public who would like to address this specific issue before we go on to the next,
Thank you.
that would kind of make things smooth.
Great.
Yes?
Me?
You're up.
Mind if I stand here?
Not at all.
Move you out of the corner. Good evening, Marilyn Richards, 342 Pinehurst. First of all, just in full disclosure for the record, these comments are mine. They reflect being a taxpayer, a resident, and a stakeholder in this community. They do not reflect my membership on the Planning Matters Subcommittee or my recent appointment to the Town Council. I have to tell you how very disappointed I am that you, the developer, I know you represent the developer, and I know this is to you folks, but through the chair, that there's no consideration for the public safety of the people who will access your site on foot, on bike, with a baby carriage. I tell you, I was parked at the light and I watched a woman trying to navigate that corner with a stroller. There was no place for her to go. This is public safety issues. This is a development that's taking place at a major intersection. And I believe there's a responsibility on the part of the developer, along with the planning board, to provide a safe access and egress on and off the site as pedestrians, as vehicles, whether you're accessing the site or going past the site. Now, I drove the site again today. I go through the intersection often. And what I see, first of all, is when I'm going up Chestnut towards East Long Meadow, and the light turns yellow as I'm approaching the intersection. The car in front of me, pedal to the metal, through the intersection, the light's just about red. Now, I realize there's no control over personal choices, but when we're making decisions like this as a planning board, and I did, you need to factor in those kinds of careless maneuvers that people are going to do when it comes to public safety. I did not attend the last public hearing, but I was listening with interest, the letter from the police department and from the fire department. And both letters addressed public safety. Section 1.0, the purpose of your zoning bylaws, talk about safety and for the common good. And this is an opportunity, and this is an improvement, if you will, a change in the development of an intersection which is going to bring more traffic than we currently have right now, whether it's pedestrian and whether it's vehicular. And I wouldn't want to be responsible for the first situation that occurs at that location because we didn't ask for a safe sidewalk. Now, yes, Great Woods brings the sidewalk all the way down to Shaker Road. I stopped and looked at it on my way again when I came in here tonight. The developer or the owner of that property is the same developer and owner of this property. And while the parcel itself only takes place for a certain length, they own the entire length. And I would think that based on some misgivings previously with respect to how that parcel was proposed to play out, that as a good neighbor, the family that developed the whole Great Woods development would find it in their hearts to be neighborly and put in a safe sidewalk. It's all about public safety. I have a question to the planning board. Historically, when developers come into intersections, they make improvements. What improvements is this development making at the intersection? For the town of East Long Meadow, improvements for the town of East Long Meadow. What improvements are they making at this intersection?
To the intersection itself, the functioning.
Well, they're going to bring,
functioning of
they're going to
the-
bring
of
a
the
lot of
intersection.
traffic, they're going to bring a lot of traffic, different issues, more pedestrian interest. I mean, I would think they would want to bring more interest to this location. And to not provide safe access, either on foot, bicycle, I mean, I've seen it all, or even vehicular. I mean, you look at the narrowness of the lanes. Now granted, part of it is a responsibility of the town, I'll give you that. But you're bringing to this intersection a huge change on a parcel that for years we were told was not developable. And now all of a sudden we're dealing with an access road on Chestnut, different changes on Shaker, and are told, no, we can't do a sidewalk. When in fact, the developer brought a sidewalk all the way down to to Shaker, when they did the Great Woods subdivision.
But as you know, being a former planning board member, we can only act on the parcel in question, and that we cannot force the developer to
Of
put
course not,
sidewalks
but
along
you
Shaker
can-
Road. We have certainly
Right.
done everything in our power to encourage the developer to do so.
But as a planning board member, you also requested reports from your police and fire department.
Yep.
And they have given you reports, and they're based on public safety. And as a planning board member, I believe you have the opportunity to perhaps ask them to rethink about how to make this access and egress, the whole intersection, more safe for the increased pedestrian traffic that they are going to generate at that location.
And I think that we have done so with.
I can say it again.
Well, with the police and the fire by restructuring the entrances and the exits to the parcel. I'm not defending
No, so-
anything.
so
And
the
you
re-
recall when you come out onto Chestnut Street, they're restricting which way they can go. I mean, we've asked and asked and
I know.
asked, and they've made lots of changes, and I'm not saying yay or nay to this, but I'm just responding that we, as a board, have continually, as I said earlier, knowing the importance of this intersection, we have pushed for everything that we believe that we can get from this.
So the recommendation of the police chief for a sidewalk from Chestnut to Yorkshire Place is gonna fall on deaf ears?
I don't know that. So,
Through the chair, if I may, there is.
Thank you.
So there is a sidewalk intersections improvement fund that was established when the gasoline station was constructed and the site plan approved for this project. But at this time, I've not had any communication, even though I put this out there a couple of times, from the developer to have a discussion about the funds that might be available to use for a sidewalk betterment.
Thank you.
So,
I guess the other thing I just want to just remind the public, the initial plan was for a Dunkin' Donut,
Correct.
which would have generated a whole lot more traffic than what a bank, and we don't know what the other business will be.
But
So
see, that's the point, we
there is
don't know.
Yeah, we don't know, but there is difference between a Dunkin' Donuts and a bank, I think, are night and day with respect to the amount of traffic. I look at my developer
There is.
representative, and he would agree with that, but.
Sure,
But thank
Dunkin'
you.
Donuts is a
Yeah,
high
thank you.
traffic
Yeah.
volume generator,
Thank
for
you
sure.
very much.
Thank you for
Thank you.
listening.
Thank you.
Sure. Was there any question related to the circulation?
Apparently not.
Actually,
Yes.
Ralph Page, 306 Prospect. I'm going to reiterate like Marilyn did, these comments are my own personal comments. They do not reflect my fact that I am a town councilor on the Planning Matters Subcommittee. I still have concerns with the in and out on Chestnut Street. I'm looking at this, you have the driveway on Shaker Road. Why can we not just make that the only in and out, take the one off of Chestnut Street, and that way there you're on a flat, level ground, which makes it safer. I've driven Chestnut Street, I grew up in town, and I know if they're trying to make that light, they are flying up that hill. There's been many times that I haven't been in an accident, but they'll come over the hill coming down and they'll have to lock up their brakes because the traffic's backed up. It's dangerous with the hill, with the crest there. The second thing, I'm gonna reiterate like Marilyn, even though you appear as though what you're saying is the sidewalks will go to nowhere, we have many developments with sidewalks that go to nowhere, with the hopes that in the future, the town will come up with the funds to be able to join them. That's what we look at doing. I just think for public safety, that would be the way to go. When I was involved with the gas station going in, they contributed to the intersection fund. They redid, I believe it was a parcel of the land they gave so that we could have a dedicated right-hand turn lane there. The timing of the lights and all was also done, I want to say.
Was that a site plan, or was that a special permit?
Actually, it was both. We did a site plan and a special permit, because a gas station with a convenience store requires a special permit.
So under the special permit, you could require
Correct.
those things.
That is correct, Mr.
As a development, it was required, because we were concerned, especially like the lights at the walking trail. We were concerned someone was gonna pull out of the gas station and hit someone walking across.
I guess my
The
question-
developer said, you know what, we've heard you, we will pay for those. I don't believe at any time we said to them, we want X amount of money for this. It was them that came forwards and said, we understand, we hear you, this is what we're willing to do. As far as the fire truck goes, I was involved with Dr. Coughlin's, and that was a huge concern with them getting around the building and then having to back up and then come out. We were told with the first plan that that was the only possible way it could be done. And then a new engineer came in and basically went to the planning board and said, well, this way would work better, which is what we had requested to begin with. But that's a completely different project. I just think that the driveway in and out, I know you're saying, hey, exiting, it's one way up Chestnut Street. They have one at Panera Bread that's set up like that. I gotta tell you what, people drive down, they put their directional on, they cut across the lanes of traffic to go in the opposite way that they're supposed to. The same thing's gonna happen here. Thank you.
Sure.
I can just, I'd like to try to address a couple of the folk, I think you have similar concerns and comments. So, first item is, what happens is, if you close this curb cut on Chestnut, you're killing this site completely. You're basically, there's no sense in improving the site, because the reality is you're never gonna be able to market it. You need access to this site. We have heard the planning board, we've heard the police and fire department's concerns, but we believe we've improved significantly over, to alleviate those concerns. I do understand your concern. We have had the traffic engineers look closely at the site distances. We have, if there's a mitigation that makes sense, like a sign of gradient, in the spots that you guys are discussing, those are fairly inexpensive, they can be added. But the traffic study supports that this intersection, even as we had originally designed it, is in fact safe. But we have changed things as requested. That said, the sidewalks. So physically, sidewalks could be physically constructed here. It's possible on our site to construct sidewalks here. Here, it's almost, well, it is physically impossible to develop our site and include sidewalks on our property. Okay? The property line is here, and I'll go to the grading map, and I'm just telling you, the actual truth here is that it's very steep. We have a grade change from about 232 down to a roadway grade of about 226. So as you can imagine, you can't put a side, it's basically a 3-to-1 slope in front, right, for a way. So you can't put a sidewalk on that, and the flat area near the road is fairly narrow. So what's left over is you would literally, if you were to construct a sidewalk in this area, it would have the granite curb or the curb on the edge of the road, and then the sidewalk would be literally on the edge of the road. That is not on the property of the applicant. It's on town property. The funding that, Ms. Broaders had spoke of was, I believe, actually deposited in the town account. So I believe that is available.
Yes, it was.
So if there was something that somebody wanted to pursue here as a town project, I believe that is part of the intersection. I don't know how where the purse strings are and how that works, but we're not opposed to sidewalks here on the corner. I think the reality is the applicant is just telling you that on his property he cannot put them in. I mean, and that's what I'm telling you physically here. Here, if we were to, if there was a kind of a grandiose plan, and you're saying that you really want to have pedestrian connections, which makes sense from a planning purpose, point of view, we totally get it. It makes sense. Perhaps, they would construct a portion of, and I can't speak for I'm speaking a little out of school right now, but something could be constructed on our property here, and then perhaps the town could do something out here. I will tell you, however, though, there's equipment and mast arms, not mast arms, but equipment and all different types of stuff there that might get in the way in that little area you have. So it might not be feasible for the town to do either, realistically, but we do understand the thought. The reality is if people are gonna probably be going around this corner, I think it's gonna be a nicer walk through the site, through the bank site. That will be realistically where they go. Just like you said, they'll take lefts. They're probably not gonna stay out here. If they're going here, they're gonna walk through. But I hope that helps, but it is possible here to construct them physically. It's impossible to construct them and develop our site at the same time on the property here. It could potentially be done right on the edge of the road.
Through the chair?
Yes.
May I suggest that the engineer take a drive along Maple Shade Road and see what the town did in putting in sidewalks in a similar situation?
Sure.
On the left-hand side, as you're going west on Maple Shade, I think you'll see where they had a steeper slope than what you're talking about and managed to put sidewalks in. So
on the slope or cut it, but they have a wall or something?
Yeah, take a drive and take a look. You live in town.
Yeah.
Drive along Maple Shade and take a look on the south side of Maple Shade. The town did that.
Okay.
And so the I word, impossible, I have trouble with.
Okay, you're right. You can build the Empire State Building. It's probably not impossible.
Yep.
So, my memory serves me correctly, we had the issue with the fire trucks.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I would like to make a comment
Okay.
on this subject.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. My name is Kate Roman, at 185 Canterbury Circle. I'm an abutter to this property. My husband is Matthew Roman. He actually grew up right on Chestnut Street as well, so I think we can speak to the busyness of this intersection. One, I have a question just because of my lack of knowledge. When the study is done about the fire truck coming into the parking lot, is that done with the aspect of there might be cars parked in that parking lot at that time? So
Yes.
that's considered, okay. I just
Good
wanted
question.
to clarify that.
Good question.
Also, it seemed like we were talking about the fire trucks, but we got into the sidewalk safety, so I just want to address that a little bit. I am directly behind the bank, where the bank would be, and I can tell you every single day, there's high school students and younger that are cutting through
the property that was where the brand-new house is, that used to be where the dance studio was, and in my property. Every day, there's students coming up there. My kids have accessed that area. So I do worry about the safety there. It has to be considered. It just seems like, the developer developed the land. All of our owners have put tons of money into it that they benefited from. I feel like that they can address this concern on behalf of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. So, I'm not closing the public hearing, but, so we had the issue with the fire chief, and so you've addressed that. We did issue with the sidewalk. Was I missing anything else from our last meeting that you can think of?
I think so.
Well, not that I want to bring fodder on myself, but you also raised the question about the location of the building. The front, moving it to the front.
Yes, but I thought you had
And so
disregarded
I
that.
had him
Felt that
address
couldn't
it.
be done.
Well,
Yeah.
I hope you didn't feel I disregarded it, but I can explain why it can't be done if it's helpful.
I tried.
Okay.
I tried. I tried. I just think from moving forward, if you have additional clients coming in with a similar type of idea on what they want to do.
Yep, you'd like to see it building towards the street.
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, places like Simsbury and Avon
Yeah.
and other places like that, that is now their requirement in zoning.
Yes.
And so I don't know why we cannot try to replicate the exact same thing.
I
So-
agree. I'd speak to that, because if it's okay, as you update your zoning, which you guys are probably gonna, sounds like you guys are doing a lot of interesting, creative stuff. What would help would be to change the front setback requirement. Because what happens in this particular situation is they have a setback here for the building, so I can actually get a whole row of parking if I do it in the front, which has less impact on the site. And if I were to flip it, what would happen is this building here couldn't go as far forward as the parking. So if you guys do want that, what would help is if we could go closer to the street with the building itself, then I could do the same amount of parking without more area.
And this is a little unique because of the zoning line that runs through that. So putting the parking behind, then technically, I think in the sketch that we looked at, would put us into the residential zone for accessory parking to a commercial use, which I don't believe would be allowed.
So, Craig, you had sent us a note regarding the Conservation Commission. You've reviewed the final plans as submitted. Do you see any issues on your part that we should be aware of, that you want to add? No?
No, not really.
Okay.
These other issues are not under the purview of the commission.
Okay. All right. So, before I...
Through the chair, if I may, the Conservation Commission reviewed draft plans, they didn't review these plans.
Yeah, okay.
So there's a difference.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, pleasure of the board,
Make a motion to continue?
and,
Should we close?
well, no.
Yeah, it's not gonna continue.
Well,
So
Continue.
why, I guess the question is, why do you wish to continue the hearing?
Because I want to hear what the fire department has to say about the proposed plan.
I agree.
After what we went through with Dr. Coghlan's, I would not want to approve something that the fire department has not formally agreed to.
Okay. And since I've not closed the public hearing, I see a hand in the audience. Would you like to address the board?
I would. Ralph Page again, 306 Prospect. I just had a question. This being a proposed bank, which could change in the future if the bank doesn't stay in business, we'll put it that way. But right now, is there a proposed drive-up window or an ATM at this bank? And where's it located? It's been a while since I've missed a couple public hearings, so I apologize. So it's
So
basically.
the answer is yes.
Yes, there is.
And then,
Okay, so circulation
Come in right there, and then you have two bypass.
or
You can come in here.
around the whole building.
Yep.
So there's plenty of room for queuing.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, what are we looking at here from Chestnut Street if someone comes in, 6 cars?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just to here, plus 7, 8, you know, if they decide to do another, they might decide to do another
If you
weight
do
here.
double windows.
Yeah.
One of the reason for this question is I had done some work at our credit union, which was built in West Springfield, and they require 20 vehicles to be able to be queued for a drive-up at a bank, which I thought was excessive. I've never seen 20 back up. But with that being said, if anything ever changes in town and a Dunkin' Donuts were to go in there with a drive-up window, you would probably need those 20 spaces. Just something to think about. Thank you.
So, Mr. Kingston has indicated he would move to continue
do this to
for the purposes to hear the final recommendation from the fire chief regarding the changes.
Yeah, and that will be to November 19th.
So, I believe then probably at that time, we would take into consideration everyone's opinions that they have made and comments that they have made, and we respect you coming to our meetings and hearing us. I do think I need to repeat, though, that this is not a project that can be totally stopped. It's a site plan review, and if they meet the requirements of the zone that they're in, then they do have the right to put that in there. I know the neighborhood is not very happy with that being developed. As I mentioned earlier, the original proposal was a Dunkin' Donut. I think this is much less obtrusive than what a Dunkin' Donut would have been to the intersection or to the neighborhood. And we're trying to be as respectful as we can. Again, I applaud the board, I applaud Connie for their work and diligence on realizing the importance of this piece of property and its place in town with respect to the intersection. So with Mr. Kingston's motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
So we have a motion that's been seconded to continue the hearing until November 19th, I believe it is.
Yes. That's what's on the agenda.
Yeah,
Yes.
so November 19th. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Thank you for your consideration.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for coming.
Do you want an extra?
Oh, wow, the section about the fire.
Yeah.
The one copy that you printed. Is it here, or did you take it?
I only have one.
Does someone have that one copy that, do you mind?
No, please.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to get this to the chief.
And they lied to us, told us that the property owner would be.
Okay, Mr. Clerk. next item.
Okay, proposed amendment to the rules and regulations for the submission and petition and plans of subdivision, section 2, general 2.8 amendments. Purpose of this amendment is proposed by the Town of East Long Meadow Planning Board and its Planning and Community Development Director. Is to correct typographical errors, establish an in lieu of sidewalk construction fund as an alternative to the construction installation of sidewalks by the applicant developer, clarify the obligations on the part of the owner ensuring the infrastructure installed by the private developer, which includes installation of conduit for fiber optic cable, meets the standards of utility providers. This is from August 20th and from September 17th. See attachment 1 for full text and proposed changes.
So what action do we need to take on this, Connie?
I respectfully request that the planning board consider continuing this to the November 19th meeting. I'm still waiting for some critical information. You were looking for the cost estimate for this for the conduit.
Mhm.
We are able to get all sorts of estimates, but that simple conduit has posed a bit of a problem, so.
Have a motion to continue this?
So moved.
I have a second.
So motion's been made and second to continue until November 19th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Continue.
Okay, number 11, case SP 2019-11, 305 Maple Street, request by applicant for modification of special permit case SP 2017-03 for parking expansion and infiltration basin relocation at 305 Maple Street, assessors parcel ID 6-9-0, 13.5 plus or minus acre site located in residential B zoning district. Applicant is Fairwell Extended Care Services, Inc., 75 North Street, Suite 210, Pittsfield, Mass.
Anyone here from the petitioner? You got double duty tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Again, for the record, Rob Levesque from our Levesque Associates. We had come informally to your planning board. I'll be brief. What we're trying to do is expand the parking on the Long Meadow side of the project. If you remember, we brought the whole project in. The first part was Mr. Crowley's building, which is right here. Just for reference, it's actually, this is the corner of it. We kind of cut it off here, but this is a vacant site now. What we would like to do is be able to expand it ever so slightly so that we can get additional parking so that he can utilize the entire building as medical office. Originally, there was some regular office and some medical office. So in order to be able to do that, what we've done is we've actually shifted our stormwater basin that was originally back here onto the East Long Meadow side. That's where you guys come in. So we are required, because we're amending our site plan, to come back to you amend our special permit, I should say. So we're amending the special permit to allow for this area here. So we're not currently making any changes to the parking or the design of the building or the location of the building. We're only looking at this expansion. This basically earthen grading, as you see, similar to the corner out by Dwight. So that's what we're requesting to do this evening. And again, the parking change is actually on the Long Meadow side, and we've already reviewed that.
So there's absolutely no parking change whatsoever on the East Long Meadow side in any way, shape, or form?
On this, so if, I know that, just for your information, they will likely at some point look at some adjustments because they have the, you know the building that exists there, the existing skilled nursing, not the one that's being constructed? They're cutting off the entrance, cutting off the end of the building and doing some stuff. The architects have adjusted the plan a little bit, so there is the likelihood that we would come in with a different amendment, but they're not there yet. They don't even have the design of the building yet. It's infant stages, but I just want you to know that they might come back into that.
Okay, but for what you're talking about tonight, no changes in parking whatsoever other than the additional parking on the Long Meadow side?
That is correct.
Okay, but you're saying they might come back for changes here. How does that, I know I'm thinking out in the future here, but I might as well ask the question. How does your change impact what they might be asking for in the future?
It doesn't. This only affects the Long Meadow site because the drainage is separate for here. So this basin only accommodates here.
So even though the basin grows to the East Long Meadow side, even if them or someone else were to come in and ask for some modifications, it wouldn't affect what they may want to modify?
Correct. So this drainage system is independent for just this area. So actually, I can tell you, this is the existing skilled nursing facility. There were some minor adjustments to how the entrances worked. So that would, if anything, and I don't want, they may not even decide to do it, but if those are changed, it wouldn't have any effect on here. If anything, we would have to maybe recalculate our storm drainage that goes to the other basins that are on site, but it's a completely independent system in this area here. And we did have this reviewed by Mr. Christensen from the DPW. He did not want to see a formal submittal.
And how many, I'm just curious now, how many additional parking spaces are you picking up in Long Meadow site?
If only I knew that answer. Let me see here.
Because even though it's Long Meadow, it still affects us.
Yeah, it would,
I mean, traffic flow and
it looks like I'm
circulation of the project and so forth.
gaining. Roughly 15, 10, or 12 to 15. Don't hold me to that number, I might be a little off with my count.
Other members of the board, any questions?
Open to public?
Yep. So it's a public hearing, so I'd like to open it to the public. Anyone have any specific questions? Concerns?
Rob loves me. That's the only reason. I just wanted to say hello. You're doing a great job. Ralph Page.
That's it? So
Again.
now you want to sit down?
No, not that quick. Rob, I remember when this plan came in on the Long Meadow side, you had a lot of subsurface drainage that was being done. I watched it go in. Fantastic job. Extremely impressive. Why can't you do it in the back? You're adding parking and all. Why can't we do subsurface drainage back there? And that way there you can't see it, because that basin in the front at the corner looks ridiculous. If that was leveled and all, you could put some nice tables out there, it'd be beautiful.
Yeah.
Obviously, from being on the planning board, you know I am all about subsurface. I know that conditions in Long Meadow are all sand. I know the infiltration is fantastic. Put it under the ground.
I believe-
That's just my comments, thank you.
I believe kind of caught me off guard on that one because I haven't looked at the drainage stuff in a while. But I believe the reason we, if I remember correctly, I believe the reason we didn't do it here was because of seasonal high groundwater. Because there is some seasonal high groundwater, but I'd have to look again. I mean, I know it's sandy material, but there is groundwater. We hit it in a couple different spots. This is, however, kind of back in the woods, protected. You won't really see much of this. And if anything, anybody that would see it would be those Long Meadow people. Jim didn't hear that.
Speaking of those Long Meadow people, I have a soft spot in my heart for those Long Meadow people. What did they comment on the drainage? Because all the water is coming from the site onto East Long Meadow. So did they have any comments in regard to the stormwater calculations for the Long Meadow parcel? No, because Tom did bring that up. We were having a discussion today. So if you do they didn't have any comments at all?
I don't believe so. I believe everything's been approved. I wasn't at all the meetings either.
So if you, in looking through your records, if you could share those comments with us, that would be greatly appreciated.
Specific to the drainage itself?
Yes, the drainage on Long Meadow side.
I don't believe we've received any comments, but I can confirm it.
Thank you. Okay.
Any other members of the public? Yes.
I'm Anthony Coal from the city of Springfield. I run Franconia Golf Course, and I was just curious does that have any drainage issues that are going to go into the golf course?
No, we're not. So we're not allowed to just send water towards adjacent properties.
Yeah.
So what we're required to do is the impervious surfaces that are created here, we're required to analyze those. And then basically match the pre-development condition to the post-development condition.
Okay.
So there was you're probably, I don't know if you're familiar with that edge of the course, but there's a property.
Yeah, the nursing home is right there.
Yeah.
The old nursing home.
Yeah, then there's a commercial property here, an office building. So this is an existing outfall that they have now, so we're gonna kind of be near that. And this area will all basically, if it were to if it were to reach the capacity, it would go into this here.
Okay.
But that said, we're required to design for the 6.5-inch rainfall event within 24 hours, so it's pretty significant. So,
Yeah.
if we did have that kind of rain event, I bet you, I'm guessing that the course would see all kinds of water.
Yeah, we get a lot of water when it rains anyway.
Yeah, so probably would be an imperceivable, if it was a catastrophic event, it would probably be an imperceivable difference.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other people in the audience have any specific questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Do we need the comments that Connie requested prior to
I think they are just for our information purposes only.
In that case, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
I'll second that.
A motion been made to close the public hearing, it's been seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed amendment.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
So there's been a motion made, seconded to approve the amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Passes.
Thank you very much. Yep, appreciate it.
Okay, so under other business, we have a request by Kate Delaney Chung of 117 Millbrook Drive in East Long Meadow to discuss the standards and conditions of parking of commercial vehicles in residential zoning districts AA, A, B, C, and elderly residential. I'm wondering, oh, she is here. Hello. Hello.
Hi. So I know the town visited this about a year and a half ago, January 2018 or something like that, and there was a lot of talk around with that petition and then defining what a commercial vehicle is and so forth. And it's calmed down since, but taken me a bit of time to get here, but I do believe that the bylaw as it stands right now is unjust to certain kinds of commercial vehicle owners. No one wants a pickup, and no one wants a dump truck or a backhoe in their neighbor's driveway. But nowadays, there are business owners who have commercial vehicles that they also use for personal use. And those vehicles look just like any other vehicle that you can buy, a family car. It looks like a family car. It might have some lettering on the side, but I'll get to that. So I think this law, by requiring that business owners have a commercial vehicle and also a family vehicle, the law is requiring that they have two separate vehicles when they only need one. And that is a significant cost. And so the law is unjustly penalizing those people by requiring this. Now, I floated an idea that a former planning board member had with some people in town and kind of developed the idea, educated myself, and took it before the town council about possibly getting the idea that I came up with on the town ballot. And they wanted to develop it, the town council said to develop it a little further, get some more input, and so that's why I'm here. I understand that there is a legal test to get on the ballot, so that's where I'm seeking your input, guidance. I don't know, do you want me to go through the idea completely, or?
Did people have an opportunity to review the materials that were in your packet?
I have.
I have.
So I don't think you need to go through it. Thank you very much. I mean, it was very thorough. Kate did a wonderful job presenting everything. So, does anybody have any questions?
The only concerns I have is we're increasing complexity in the bylaw, but we would be increasing complexity in the bylaw by adding a lot of this in. But the way it's written now, if there's no sign on it and it's a typical vehicle, it's allowed. Okay, that's the way the bylaw reads right now. The only thing other than that was modifications, and that's up to the building inspector to determine whether a ladder rack or a huge toolbox on the back qualifies it as a commercial vehicle. And I'm also just a little concerned about being too specific because things change weekly, if not yearly, in terms of vehicle design and in terms of graphic capabilities. 10 years ago, you never saw something like what Go Graphics does today, where you wrap the whole car in stuff. So things are going to change over time. I think we need to get a balance between achieving what we want, which is not having big commercial vehicles and portable billboards, as some people call them, and on the other hand, making people do things, spend money that they shouldn't otherwise have to spend. And I think that as long as we've got a building inspector who's intelligent and reasonable, that a certain degree of flexibility is beneficial, but that's my own personal opinion, okay? And I appreciate all the work that went into this and all the detail you got into. I think that going forward, we may need to reach some compromise between the two positions. But thank you, I really appreciate it.
So going through your research, did you look at like what other area communities have done on this matter?
No.
I don't really have an opinion tonight, but I will have an opinion, but I would like to say I appreciate the way you went about this, as opposed to the way it's been going about in other times. I mean, this is very well thought out. I just want to spend some more time. Thank you.
So through the chair, if I may, under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 48, Section 5, no proposed zoning ordinance or bylaw which has been unfavorably acted upon by a city council or town meeting shall be considered by the city council or town meeting within 2 years after the date of such unfavorable action, unless the adoption of such proposed ordinance or bylaw is recommended in the final report of the planning board. So the planning board, as I understand it, did not recommend the petition that was presented 2 years
Months
ago.
ago, yeah.
Yes. So, and we did have a compromise, giving a definition, inserting a definition into the table of definitions. So it is premature at this time to entertain a revision, or a new proposed zoning bylaw amendment. So after, it was rejected in April, I believe, when I started, I'll be here 2 years.
Okay.
So I know.
Of 18, April of 18.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so you still have a little bit of time to
The
perfect
nature
this.
of that petition, though, was to remove the clause completely. So this is a different kind of petition. So I don't think that applies respectfully. I'm not sure, that would be you to tell me, but it is a completely different ask that I'm bringing forward.
But we could revisit it after April of 2020.
I'd like to look into that a little more before agreeing to that.
But I don't think we're ready to say yay or nay, one way or the other, or to,
Okay.
we certainly can put this on our next, this would be a good topic to discuss in our planning sessions, which would be the first of the month, which I believe, because the first Tuesday in November is an election, so we are unable to hold a meeting in November, but we could put it on our agenda for the first Tuesday in December as part of our planning sessions. So the first meeting each month, we're now doing planning sessions, so we're talking about master plans and multi-use housing or multi-use zones and other things, so it might be a wonderful opportunity to do it that time.
I'd also like to point out that I'm not seeking a yay or nay from any of you.
Right.
I'd just like input, because the final opinion, the opinion that I'm seeking is the town's.
Good point.
On the ballot. So I'm not seeking approval from you, I'm just seeking guidance on getting past the legal test to get on the ballot.
Just my other quick concern before we kind of bring this to a conclusion for tonight would be the complexity that George talked about, making it a little more complex. So the idea of having a magnet over the sign that you put on when you come home at night and then, you know, take it off the next morning, almost creates a hide and seek between, you know, kind of a hide and seek issue, and it's a, you know, and you also put language in your comments about retaliation. Some people might retaliate against others. I can tell you the street I live on, there are a number of commercial vehicles I've never called because it's never bothered me enough to call.
So I have the law.
But if it bothers someone enough that a ordinance or a bylaw is being violated, all the more power to them to call. They wish to exercise their rights to do so. I don't necessarily call that retaliation. But so that kind of cat and mouse game by putting on the magnet is something that is worrisome, not troublesome, but worrisome for me.
I understand
So
that
another issue
the magnets can be
discuss.
stolen and so forth and so on,
So,
but that's just one idea about covering it up.
Yeah, but that was a great idea.
But
Yeah.
the idea of having somebody who is offended wants to enforce the ordinance, the law always looks at what is reasonable, what a reasonable person would do. There may be one person on your street who's completely unreasonable, and totally empowered by this ordinance. So that is wrong. Under the law, on what law says it should be.
Well, thank you very, very much. Do you have more questions?
No, just wanted to echo what you guys had said. I think it's great, this proposal coming forward, and it would be, I think, a good idea to perhaps look at something that would make it easier for your average landscaper, average person who's owning a small business who, you know, doesn't necessarily have a dump truck or something, but to be able to house a vehicle at home. So I think this is great, and I'm going to be looking at it a little bit more. I already kind of read through it once, but I'm going to look at it a little bit more at length in time for our next meeting. So, but
thank you.
We appreciate it.
Okay, so it's on the next meeting agenda, or?
Sure, we'll put it on the
December
December.
17th.
Or wouldn't it be December 3rd?
December 3rd?
The first
We have,
Tuesday.
Planning
there's a
session.
reason we do not meet on December 3rd. I just looked at our schedule.
Election. No, November is the election.
Is it a,
Oh, she
is
said
it a
December.
holiday?
Yeah, let's see.
You don't have to. You say holidays.
I was thinking Hanukkah.
No, not
Maybe
December.
later.
We do our agendas, we're doing our agendas for 2020 now, so forgive me if I don't remember why we are not having a meeting on December the 1st.
You have it listed,
Do I?
yes.
Is it?
3 December work session on the planning board 2019 schedule you put out. It's there, second one from the bottom.
One way or the other, we will be reviewing this again.
Yes, I'm sorry, study
discussing the
session,
issue.
December 3rd.
December 3rd.
Yep.
Okay. Can I ask what the purpose of that, what the goal at that meeting will be?
Well, to further look at your recommendations and try to give you our thoughts on what might be appropriate or not appropriate. I think that's what you're
Yeah.
looking, you're not looking for an approval. You're
Right.
just looking for our thoughts as planning board members on what we believe the town might find palatable.
Okay, sounds
Well,
good.
what is your deadline for getting on the ballot?
I'd have to check, but if it goes to needing a petition, well, you guys wrote the charter.
Yeah.
Well, you could call it a special election.
The election
No,
is.
well, no, I don't want a special
The
election.
election would
for
be
it.
in April, so it would probably be.
June?
In June, right, it's in June, so you're talking a month or so in advance in order to
Yeah.
get ballots printed and everything else, get approval by whoever
there-
needs to approve it.
Is there a state requirement about ballot questions?
I would talk to the town clerk about that, because the town clerk is in charge of elections and sets the
All right,
deadline.
no, there's plenty of time, I just wanna.
Yeah.
Have it all.
I'm not trying to stall you past your
No, I
deadline.
know, it's October.
Yeah.
Is it October?
It is.
It's still-
Yeah.
This would be a good way of going.
Wish it were April,
Yeah.
all over again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our friends from Bella Vista. Do you want to call it, or just status update on modification of definitive subdivision plans for Bella Vista Estates Phase 2?
Good
Hello.
evening. I'm Brian Fitzgerald, the trustee for the Bella Vista Holdings Realty Trust. I have some original documents that I have to deliver to the planning director, so I'd like to give you those now. Connie, there's a receipt there. That receipt is for the plans. That's what the registry gave us for the recorded plans.
So we need the plans themselves. We don't need the receipt, so we need the drawings.
The drawings are kept with the registry. The registry keeps those. So I can email you what's
You don't have full-size, you didn't provide a copy of the full-size Mylar?
to the registry.
So you didn't do 2 copies, right? You just did 1?
We did two.
I thought you did 2.
We left one here last time.
Yeah, there was one, the one that was signed, the one that I received from your office, we had recorded at the registry. And the registry holds on to those.
Right,
So,
but generally we get a set back.
Okay.
You didn't get it? Don't worry.
Yeah, they hold on, I
So
guess.
do me a favor.
I can email to you what's been recorded.
That would be terrific.
Okay,
If you
all
could
right.
just do that.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm gonna give you, well, okay, do you want me to hold on to this?
You can hold on to that, that's the original receipt, I wanted you to have that so that you had it. I mean, we've scanned it into our
Yeah,
files,
so just to be clear,
Yeah.
we have a hanging file folder of recorded plans or copies that have been signed. And it's a Mylar, and then whomever used to maintain the files, they would write deed book and page number or plan book and page, and we just hang them in this vertical file. It is ideal to keep the plans within the case file folder altogether instead of at a separate location. So I'm really happy with an 11 by 17 document
Okay.
because it folds nicely in the file folder.
Okay, all right, okay, all right, so we'll have those printed off on 11 by 17.
And
from-
just, yeah.
From the registry, and it shows, all the book and page references.
And I know I could print them, but it saves us.
No, we'll collect it and then.
So we're here,
Thank you.
so we're here for a modification.
Well, no, not a modification,
No?
actually,
we're
so,
good.
so we've, obviously, just to give you an update, construction has moved along, the road is paved, so you can drive on it now, so that's all a great progress. We've recorded the plan. There are a number of other documents that have to be recorded in connection with the recording of the plan, which include the approvals from the board, as well as the amended covenant. The preferred practice is to record all of those documents all in one fell swoop. And what happened is we ran into a problem with the registry, where they have rejected the conveyance of easement utilities forms, and I apologize, I have not had a chance to discuss this with the planning director, so she's just hearing this for the first time. So, but the registry will not accept the form, the town form, for the conveyance of easement and utilities. So they've asked for it to be noted with respect to the consideration, which is no consideration. So I would request the board's permission to deal with the planning director so that I can at least modify that first page so we can get those documents recorded. So I didn't want to do anything without your permission, obviously, so that's the first request.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
I don't think we need to vote on it.
Okay, all right. So then the second item is just on the irrevocable letter of credit. There was an updated amount now that construction has moved along. The DPW has provided an updated bond estimate in the amount of $368,700. So I've presented the original of that from Munson Savings Bank. There were some modifications that I believe it was the treasurer had wanted. So we made that to the letter. And then there's also the performance agreement, which would require that, Mr. Chairman, your signature on it by accepting that. So, and then we just need, you can hold on to the original. We would just need a copy to provide to Munson Savings Bank, once you've had it signed and notarized, okay? So we're requesting that you accept that irrevocable letter of credit. And then the final item then would be, in lieu of the fact that that's been placed, the irrevocable letter of credit, we would be requesting a release of the lots from the covenant, so that we can then.
Connie, all the numbers match up?
Yes, I'm just a little confused about, and we can talk about the conveyance of easements and
Yeah.
utilities later.
Yeah.
I do have this for the chair to sign, and then we will copy. And why wasn't the covenant recorded?
Because what they do is they want the consideration, it's rejected because they want to, it's the way that they're reviewing the form, but they want to identify who the owner is and give reference for the original approval or deed reference. The consideration on the easement is not acceptable. So In some cases, what we can do is we can just write no consideration on it, but the registry had indicated to us that they wanted the first page changed.
I understand, I see good and adequate, but that's the conveyance of easements and utilities.
Correct.
But the covenant?
Yeah, because we're recording all of, as I said before.
Oh, one
we'll-
fell swoop.
One fell swoop, because it
Gotcha.
just makes it easier when you see on the index, it's all in one fell swoop.
I see.
So,
Yep, that
So,
sounds.
okay.
So I'd love to sign, but who's the notary?
I mean, if you want me to, it's
I'm
up to the
not
board.
signing.
I'm a notary public, so I can notarize your.
Well, I'm a notary, and I know that I can't sign it unless the notary asks me if I'm signing this document in my own free act and deed, of which I am.
Okay, you're signing it as your free act and deed.
Okay.
Freely and voluntarily, so.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, before I sign, so are all the numbers, Mr. Christensen has gone through all the numbers, everything's in place. So now, they're asking the board to be able to read, what vote do we need to take to release the lots? Just that simple of a vote.
Well, what lots do they want released?
They're right here. 9R, 10R, 11 through 24, 25R.
Yeah.
All of them?
Yeah.
Correct.
Could I, maybe just? Thank you. Well, we have everything we need if you want to release all of those lots.
Yeah.
Okay. So do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to release those lots.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Oh, here we go.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now I'll sign.
Okay.
Did you want to see his ID?
Personal knowledge.
No, you know better than that.
Wise guy. Okay. Connie? Connie? Thank you. That's it?
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll see you tomorrow.
You want me to, I'll come by tomorrow. and I'll
Yes.
see, I'll bring my seal and, okay.
Thank you.
Do you have your seal tonight?
No, I don't have it with me right now, but.
Oh, come on, Brian.
So, yeah. I know my permission expiration, but,
So, thank you.
all right, thank you, appreciate it.
So before we get into the last item, there's two things that I want to raise. So one, so with respect to the master plan, so I met with Connie and Bethany last week, week before, but after the October 1st meeting. And we discussed kind of creating structure for actually getting from place A to place Z. So if you recall the discussions, that there are 9 components of a master plan: housing, public safety, traffic, infrastructure. I know traffic was one of yours, one of your big items. So what we did is we created a schedule, and the schedule is laid out between now and, let's say, June. And I believe our first item would be housing, and we would be tackling the housing component at our December 1st planning meeting. So we've identified certain people in the town and Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, et cetera, who we are inviting to the meeting. Now, to make that work, Connie will be sending a email out to the members of the Master Plan Committee and the Planning Board to identify the issues that you believe are appropriate to go into the section on housing. So as an example, I would like to know from Diane Bishop the number of single-family, two-family, condos, elders, elderly elderly complexes, that type of thing. I'd like to know how much residential land is still available. I'd like to know how much of the town is residential A, B, C, et cetera, so that Connie and Bethany would get the information that we would all request out to us prior to the meeting, so that as we go into each meeting, we would be prepared with the data that we would need to make, not decisions, but to have a very valid, active discussion about housing. And where we would recommend in a master plan process where the town might want to look out 10, 20, and 30 years based upon the data and information that we have. But to make that work, we need all of us to be active throughout the course of the month. And by being active, when Connie sends us, okay, we're going to be doing housing, she would send a memo out saying, okay, housing is December 1st. What are the issues? What type of data, what type of information do you want so that we can actively discuss that? We would also have made a schedule to ask certain department heads who might have a piece of that topic, that component of the master plan, to come in that evening. Because I think being department heads, they need to be actively involved in the process. We had Carolyn Brennan come in and speak for about 25 minutes a few months ago. She certainly has a lot of things up there that she certainly thinks of that we don't necessarily think of because we're not involved in that type of thing. I mean, I thought it was fascinating, her discussion of the growing number of elders and the types of housing associated with, with all of that. So what we've done is I'm trying to make those planning meetings related to the master plan as efficient as possible. But to make them as efficient as possible, we need everybody to be involved by getting information to Connie, reading the information that we get back from them, putting a lot of work on their shoulders to kind of get us that information. So as much participation. So unfortunately, I think Bruce Feeney was mentioned about 6 different times in our schedule moving forward, or someone from DPW because of infrastructure, traffic, you name it. But at least we will have a plan in place. Part of Connie's memo to everyone, she will have listed out the months and the components that we're going to discuss, so that at least you can also then start looking forward to getting your brain moving and that type of thing. Because I think the goal is to try to have it completed by next, we'll call it July 1st, June or July timeframe. We obviously would hold a public hearing or 2 about the plan. George has been very good about putting information on the master plan share drive. Did I say that right?
Yep.
So that's good for some information. That's I'm not real technology, but
That's great.
It's really good to have all that information. So that's kind of how we're going to move forward. Anybody have any questions from the board?
Sounds good.
Do you like the idea, or you like the concept and the planning?
Great idea.
Yeah.
So the second one is just, I had the opportunity, and then Tide came in right behind me, and I know that George has been to meet with the town council, is it subcommittee?
Planning matters, so.
Planning Matters Subcommittee. It was very interesting. I enjoyed my time there. It is a very difficult and complex topic, and for the hour or so that I was there, I was very impressed with the work that you're doing. I want to ask members of the planning board that to try that at least one member of the planning board do their very best to go to each one of their meetings. I know you were a little late.
Yeah, here's the thing, I'd like to actually go to every one of them, but the issue I have is every other Monday morning, I'm not available till noon, 12:30, and unfortunately, that's when they're having the meeting. So if the meeting schedule stays the way it is, I'm not gonna be able to show up until noon-ish. If the schedule were to change, I would make every one of them.
The only thing to remember here is we don't want to have a quorum.
Right, yeah, I'm asking for at least
Yeah.
one. Yeah, I don't.
So we need to coordinate,
Yeah,
that's all.
Well, if you just let us know who's
Yeah,
available, then
yeah.
we'll
So, but I thought, speaking humbly, that we were helpful in the process to give the other members, because you two have been regular attendees at a lot of our meetings, but some of the ideas on why we might have chosen one thing versus something else, the discussions we had, it gave it some context, so I thought it was very helpful. So I would ask that if you get notice, if we can, through Connie, do some coordination, that would be really good. So the last thing on our agenda, on our printed agenda, is a discussion of temporary moratorium for ground-mounted photovoltaic systems and for the public. So this planning board, and I believe the town council, turned down a zone change request for just to make it easier, a solar farm. I think it's.
Through the chair, the town council has not taken a vote on that yet.
Oh, you had not. You just had a number of hearings.
We've had discussions and it was asked to be continued.
Okay. So this board then turned down a request for a zoning.
It was a zoning petition.
A zoning petition to change the zone.
The zoning district from RAA to industrial.
To industrial, to put in a solar farm.
Yes.
The petitioner took the town to court, and a land court judge has, I don't know if the best way I want to put this, he found in favor of the petitioner? Can I put it that way?
He found that there were, that our zoning bylaw was defective.
Was defective because it was against public policy to.
So solar arrays are exempt from zoning. Just like schools or churches, they have to meet the conditions of site plan review, setbacks, massing, ground cover, let me take the ground coverage back, but setbacks and other site plan review regulations. However, they could not be restricted from any zoning district. So under the state statute, a solar array, a ground-mounted solar array could be installed in a residential zoning district and not, as we have written it, in the garden industrial or industrial zoning district. We provide for zoning districts, but this particular judge said that it wasn't enough because the use is exempt.
So, as that finds its way through the town, as to what position the town will take after that decision, we thought that it might be prudent of the town to introduce the concept of a moratorium on the solar arrays in
Just the
Go
solar
ahead.
arrays.
The solar array. Until, at a minimum, the court case is finalized and/or until we as a town can determine what our next steps are.
It says here June 30th of 2020.
Thank you. Yeah, through June 30th of 2020.
Because, through the chair, because the bylaw was found to be defective, we need time to redraft the bylaw to make it meet what the land court judge interprets as what the statute says. Okay. And so that would be the reason, moratorium would be to give us time to rewrite our bylaw, because we need to revisit then setbacks, lot coverage, and all those other things that we did not deal with in residential zones because we did not allow it there. And that's going to take time.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, to respond to the court.
Not to respond to the court, to come up with a bylaw that protects the interests of the town, but that also meets the state statute. Okay, and we don't have an answer for that yet.
So there is a draft petition. It's a petition to the town council for a temporary moratorium. It would essentially request that the planning board votes to petition the town council to adopt the temporary moratorium. And then it would be up to the town council to decide whether they wish to pursue it.
Correct.
Or not.
So do we need a motion to adopt that petition?
I believe we would.
And we'll make such a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? I agree. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed say nay. Hearing none, that passes. Good. Do we have any other matters properly before the planning board?
One thing, if I may.
Yes.
Not for discussion tonight, and we'll discuss this on November 19th, but a report to the board of something that came up at the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission general meeting last week. The commission, which is a consortium of 43 odd cities and towns, was asked to endorse Governor Baker's legislation in support of his housing initiative. After discussion, the commissioners present felt that they needed to go back and talk to their planning boards and town governments to see whether or not the towns in fact support that legislation. And what that legislation does, very simply, is to reduce the majority needed to pass certain zoning changes, specifically related to housing, from 2/3 majority to a simple majority. On the surface, it seems very simple, but in fact, in discussion, there was a lot of concern, particularly from the smaller towns, that this would remove safeguards that prevent large, well-funded developers coming in and forcing a zone change by getting a smaller number of votes on their side. So on the 19th, I will bring this back to the board. I'll make sure that Connie has you all see what the proposed legislation is, and I'd like to have a discussion and agree where we stand and whether or not we support it and whether or not you authorize me to vote in support of it or not. Okay? Good. Because I'm not going to do that on my own.
I just asked that one other thing, that on your, I don't know if the town is capable of doing, but on your page on the town website, if you could list the different master plan component dates. People are interested in participating and coming and hearing. It'd be wonderful to have members of the public come and participate for hearing each one.
That would be
Great.
a good idea.
So just one other thing, this is the tentative meeting schedule for next year, that's pretty much gonna be in effect.
So you can look at that, and then you will discuss it at the November meeting to vote to accept or change. I want you to have an opportunity to take a look at your calendars. Okay.
So, hearing no other formal business, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Thank you.
Thank you.